This week's Monday Night Raw saw the Judgment Day get the jump on the Terror Twins. Xavier Woods confronts Kofi about Otis Big E Jones, and Randy Orton gets all the wins he can against Gunther before he loses to him in Berlin. It's time for your hot takes. First up, one of the biggest things you guys are talking about this week's Monday Night Raw is, of course, the New Day. Finally, Xavier Woods talked to Kofi Kingston. Kofi was like, hey, everybody has noticed that you're acting like kind of a pill right now. What's going on? And Woods says, why are you trying to replace Big E with Otis Big E Jones? And Kofi was like, I'm not really doing that. And then during the match, Kofi tagged in Odyssey Jones instead of Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods puts his face right near the camera. Is like, the fuck was that? Jason Jacobson here says, Kofi Kingston should turn on Woods. So a lot of people are expecting Woods to turn on Kofi and Odyssey Jones. Should be a terrible idea, because as soon as Xavier Woods lays out Kofi Kingston, guess what? Odyssey Jones is going to wreck his ass, because that's sort of his thing right now, is wrecking people. So I don't know about this Kofi turning on Woods thing, although the idea of Odyssey Jones and Kofi Kingston being a couple of bad guys against Xavier Woods is kind of interesting. But I don't know. I am getting used to, and I think somebody here in the hot takes has this idea too. I'm very much getting used to the idea of Xavier Woods turning on Kofi Kingston and even taking on the task of beating Odyssey Jones, or at least keeping him away from his goal of beating up Kofi Kingston. Will it happen? Probably not. I don't know, but you guys have a lot of thoughts on it, so we're going to get to some of those now. First up, W. Stein says Xavier has every right to turn on Kofi Kingston. Replacing Big E with Odyssey Jones was stupid. I'm a fan of Odyssey Jones. I like what they've been doing with him. I say let the guy replace Big E. Have Big E sit down with Xavier Woods and say, look, man, if I ever come back, we'll be a four-man group, but until then, just let the guy in. It's fine. You're not replacing anybody. You can be the New Day or something silly like that. But get over it. It's been a while now. Let's just move on with it. You got to make your money. And being in this feud with the Final Testament, it seems like it's over. But, I don't know where you guys go from here. So maybe inject some new life into it. And that's what they should do. But yeah, do you guys think Xavier Woods has every right to turn on Kofi? He should do this. Just give him an ultimatum. But don't do it like in a rude way. Be like, hey, Kofi, listen. I like that you found your partner here in Odyssey Jones. That's cool. I'm going to go do me. And then like leave him on red whenever he texts you. I'm not going to say ghost him necessarily, but be like, yeah, I don't need to ride with you. I'm kind of just interested in driving by myself. And then, maybe you'll get the hint. It's just like a relationship. It's like, tell the person, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't want to be around you anymore. And then just walk away. And they'll be like, oh man, now I really want to be around this person. Well, you got Odyssey Jones. He's cool. No, I'll ditch him. You got to learn to be manipulative. You want to get ahead in life. That's terrible. Oh my God, that is terrible advice. Roach the Boy Wonder also thinks that Kofi and Odyssey should be the ones to go heel on the New Day. There's still time for that to happen, he says. I just feel Odyssey Jones could be a good heel heater for Kofi. Yeah, I can see this either way. I'll be honest with you. It's kind of interesting that now finally that this Final Testament story has come to an end, they've actually achieved something interesting in it. It's only been 4 months, and right now, right at the finish. By the way, on WWE social media, they posted a video of Scarlett telling Karrion Kross, we're done. It's good. Let's leave it alone. It's over with. You need to walk away from this. You did what you wanted to do. And then they insinuate they're going to have some sex. But that promo, that little backstage digital thing is exactly what Kross and Scarlett and the Final Testament need to get over the fans on TV. Put that kind of stuff on TV where we get to see them interact, because they've got such great chemistry and Scarlett's a really good talker. And we never get to hear her talk. It's ridiculous. If you want them to get over, showcase their personalities. Red Tube says, if you shave off the middle 4 months of the New Day Final Testament feud, it's actually really good. I agree. They spent so much time doing absolutely nothing, and then it finally got good. Proof positive because you guys are loading up the comments here with New Day stuff. Kiddo Hudson Live says, I know, Xavier, I'd be pissed off too. I think a lot of people are feeling the Xavier Woods side of the story. We've all had people, maybe, a good friend going like, hey, look, me and Larson, we play basketball every Monday and Friday. And then all of a sudden he found some new people to play with on a Tuesday. Whoa, what is it? What is this new people you're doing over there? I'm just joking. I gave him my full blessing. But no, man, I've been there before with friends, and I know what it's like to see somebody else nudge you out of your spot. It's not a fun feeling. All right, we'll let Tyler Warden here get the last word on the New Day. He says the New Day story is in a really rough place. Either they break up and everyone shits on that, or they resolve the tension without solid consequences, and checks notes, everyone shits on that. Man, I've got a little bit more hope for this, Tyler. I feel like there might be some twists and turns along the way, and whatever the resolution is, we'll be happy with it. If we get a heel Woods, I think he'll make it really interesting. If we get a heel Kofi and Odyssey, as you guys have pointed out, I think they can make that pretty interesting. And if they end up just merging into a New Day, I think they could do that, and maybe they'll have some more wind behind their sails. But you absolutely risk doing what you're saying they might do, and that's you break up and people are going to shit on it, or they resolve the tension and everybody shits on it. Hopefully we just get a good story out of it. Speaking of the Final Testament, Cam DeLoach says, the Final Testament having two managers and neither of them ever cutting promos is hilarious. It's so sad. I want to see them talk. I want to see Paul Ellering talk, and I definitely want to see Scarlett talk. All right, let's talk about this. Isaiah TV says Punk versus Drew being the four corners version of the strap match is great. I prefer a match that requires a unique strategy to win rather than just a no DQ match with a strap. Isaiah TV, this is definitely a hot take because I saw a lot of people pushing back on the four corners aspect. I'm kind of curious what my pal Larson has to say over at Going in Raw tomorrow on our review. I don't know how I feel. I'm generally not a fan of this. However, I think maybe because expectations might be low, at least for myself speaking, I think they're going to kill it with this match. I do. And you're going to take out the added storyline, plot device, whatever you want to call it, of Seth Rollins being there, inserting himself into the match way too much, which is a sentiment a lot of people had at SummerSlam match. I was okay with it, but I understand where they're coming from. But having that four corners thing, I get it. Punk's going to win this, but Drew McIntyre is going to be able to say, you did it without pinning me. You can't do that. Then they go to Hell in a Cell, and maybe that's where CM Punk gets the win, and he gets the bracelet. Fast forward maybe a couple months, Drew McIntyre wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Him and CM Punk go to WrestleMania for that. Drew McIntyre retains there, and so he gets that final win over CM Punk. So it's technically 2-2, but they each got a big win. Maybe, just maybe, if CM Punk can stay healthy and they can revisit this feud later on down the line, I think that could be a lot of fun. That's a possibility for a night one main event if it's not all bloodline this year. All right, here's a follow-up on Tyler's hot take from last week, where he said CM Punk's little bracelet thing, messing with that thing is a license to for danger there, because it could just fall apart. He says, straight up thought WWE watched last week's hot takes. I felt that bracelet shattering into the ether as soon as Punk pulled out a gaggle of extra MacGuffins, straight up combo meal of sausage, egg, and cheese MacGuffins. Tyler, no, man. Dude, Punk pulled out so many of those bracelets. Just put them on, Punk, and the problem is solved. You don't need the one that Drew has. You've got like 50 more of these things. And he was just walking around with these things in his pocket backstage, like some dude, like them dudes with like cargo shorts, and he loads them up with like pocket change. He's walking around, it's like shing, shing, shing. That's how he was with these bracelets. He had like a million of these things in his hand. Oh, what a good laugh. Thanks, Tyler. All right, some of y'all are torn on Pat McAfee leaving because It's Aaron says, I'm going to miss Pat McAfee on commentary. He gives off a much more casual vibe at commentary and is pretty entertaining most nights. Meanwhile, Carlos V says that Pat McAfee tribute video could have fooled me into thinking that he just died. Great to know that Pat's still with us and that WWE is the absolute best at compiling video montages. Hey, man, say a prayer, say some thoughts and prayers for Pat McAfee, who left us today from Monday Night Raw. He's not dead. He's fine. He's alive. He's just taking time off. Meanwhile, Aldo Gooden says, I'm over the moon that Pat is gone. Sure, he's fun for the Rumbles, but he's just too insufferable on weekly television. So which one is the hot take? What do you guys think about Pat McAfee as a commentator? Let me know in the comments below. I like Pat. I think him and Michael Cole have established a really nice chemistry where it does just kind of feel like two friends, one of which is really, really good at play-by-play commentary, and another kind of goofball, having a good time, making the other dude laugh. I think Pat is really good at that. So I'll be looking forward to Raw on Netflix for when he comes back, but I don't mind taking a break from him. I kind of like this. You know, you get Pat McAfee for a little while. If he becomes too much, he goes away for a bit, then he comes back. I'm okay with that. I'm a fan of that. Looks like we might have some insider info here. Dame is Fizzo says, I feel like having Raw go back to 2 hours when Raw goes back to Netflix is a bad idea considering the mass talent they have to book for the already short pay-per-views. Last I checked, that's not happening. I think they're going to stick with 3 hours, or maybe they'll do 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is technically what the length of the show is because of commercials and whatnot. I mean, in terms of look, if they booked a solid 2-hour show without recaps, without commercials and whatnot, it would probably actually be pretty cool. And they'd fit the same amount of people in. But I haven't heard word one about them going to 2 hours when it goes to Netflix. Maybe I'm out of the loop on this. I don't know. But I feel like it'd be a pretty big deal if that was the case. In any event, I agree with this. I think that the 3-hour Raw right now is pretty good. I know a lot of you out there might disagree with this, but 3 hours with all the talent they have, although I think that they still did a short shrift on the women's division tonight, jammed them all into one match, and the only other women's division action you've got is Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, which is really good, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But man, you got a lot of people in that women's division. Same thing we were saying about AEW a little while ago. You got a lot of great talent in that women's division. You got to start telling more stories with that as opposed to just, hey, we got these tag titles, let's just do that. Right now and later says Bronson Reed is becoming an unstoppable juggernaut. Braun Strowman's going to put Reed over in a big way. We might have a legitimate threat to Braun Breaker's IC championship. It's kind of crazy how in a very, very short period of time, Bronson Reed, about to say Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed has gotten over big time just based off of him doing really cool shit. It's kind of funny in wrestling. People just really want to see people do cool shit. It's a really easy formula. All right, let's dive into some Judgment Day takes. The Genuine Fake says Dom should have tried to frog splash Rhea. Massive heat opportunity missed. I kind of like how they punctuated that with Rhea crying over Priest's dead body, basically, and the new Judgment Day standing tall. I thought it made them look good. I thought the big complaints from last week about, Rhea and Priest being able to single-handedly take out the scrub Judgment Day has been addressed. If that report that Triple H is paying attention to Twitter is true, then I guess the people have been heard. Heel Harrison says Liv Morgan's chair shot to Rhea and her selling was the highlight of Raw. Yeah, that was a good one, man. They fell for the trap and then they ended up eating it. All right, here's a hot take from The Big Cringe. Says the Judgment Day story has hurt Rhea Ripley. Before getting hurt, she was starting to become a crossover star with non-wrestling fans. But this story has halted her momentum since her return, where I'm not hearing buzz like I used to. I don't know exactly what you use to hear buzz necessarily, or what metrics you use. But when I watch the TV with Rhea Ripley, man, she still gets tremendous responses. I think that the story now that her and Damian Priest got the beat down they got, there's a bit more heat to it, and I think it's working. The Terror Twins thing, I think, is working, and I think they're over, man. So I don't know about this one. Maybe some of y'all agree with this, but I think you got to have, like, the one complaint that people had about Rhea Ripley is she really was never on the back foot. She was never really the one to suffer any losses, to suffer any major beatdowns. She was just eating up, spitting out the competition. And now we actually see what happens when she's taken down by, this scumbag New Judgment Day. Speaking of scumbag New Judgment Day, W.S. Fletcher says, I would have been okay with them calling themselves Street Scum. It's wrestling and every name is either childish or stupid. I think it was Street Trash. I'll be honest with you. I like Street Scum better. I think that's pretty good. Only because I can hear Finn Balor in his accent say Street Scum. That's a really good name. I like that one. Atticus here says, Jay and Sammy should be heavily involved in the Judgment Day war, not the Bloodline one. Says, I know they got a tag title match coming up, but I mean, they should be key players. Perhaps Judgment Day feud should get War Games instead of the Bloodline. That's not a terrible idea. That is not a terrible idea. Yeah, I mean, given that Jay and Rhea, are basically kind of involved in a silly flirtation on social media, and it's been referenced on TV as well. I think, and the tag title thing. I think there might be a line there. I think that wouldn't be a terrible idea. Sizzlin Papaya says Terror Twins is not a good name. They're not even twins. In a bubble, it's not a good name, given that that's sort of informally how they talked about each other, just while they're out on the road or whatever. I think it makes all the sense in the world. I love that they brought this cheesy, corny little nickname they had for themselves, and they made it official on TV. I like that. I would totally buy some Terror Twins merchandise. CDT Player says Kaiser should have been the guy to beat Gunther for the IC title. Shout out to Ludwig Kaiser for main eventing Raw tonight. Granted, it was in a loss against Randy Orton, but hey, that's pretty cool for him. As far as him, the thing about Ludwig is he would have needed a lot of building up in order for him to be the guy to beat Gunther. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like, shouldn't they have just had Braun Breaker do it? Sami Zayn's run was 4 months long, and they got to Braun Breaker. I don't know how I feel about that. Sami seems kind of transitional now in hindsight, but then he had that whole story going to WrestleMania, and that kind of matters. The Spargament says title will be an albatross on Gunther. One of the many things that makes him special is that he's a monster heel that wins clean. As he's matched up against main eventers more regularly, it's unlikely that he'll be booked as favorably and risk losing some of his aura. I will bet dollar over dollar that he will win against Randy Orton clean in Berlin. I think that Triple H loves Gunther. He sees him basically as his own version of Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar didn't cheat to win. Brock Lesnar would just beat people clean. He was a monster. That's what Triple H wants Gunther to be. I understand you got Ludwig Kaiser out there doing stuff from time to time. I think when it comes to the actual matches, we're going to see Gunther beating pretty much everybody he needs to clean. Yes, to get that title, we had the Judgment Day interference stuff, but I think from here on out, we are going to get Gunther beating. He is acting way more heel than he was before. That being said, I think he's going to beat Randy Orton clean, and I think that he's going to go on a run of wins where he beats people clean. All right, we're going to end on this one from Finn. Says, haven't watched Raw yet, but how's about we either change hot takes to just takes, considering you said most hot takes aren't really so hot, or make a hotometer. That sounds like a lot of work. I'm definitely not going to do that. Listen, I think a lot of these can be considered hot. Some of them just thoughts. But look, let's just, we all want WrestleJuice to do well, right? And it's not nearly as fun, and it doesn't do nearly as well. But I'm just like, hey, this is what people thought about the show. It's got to be something controversial, so you call it hot takes. And there's a couple of decent hot takes in here. I think a couple of people had some hot takes. But it's easy, and it's a thing that people use, and that's what we're going to call it. But between you and me, Finns, I get it. They're not all super hot. A lot of these are just takes. They're just thoughts, and that's fine. But I'm not going to come up with a hotometer, because that seems like it'd be right on the side or something over here, like a little meter, just point up, be like, this is cold, this is hot. Seems like that'd get to be a bit much by the time the video is all said and done. But I appreciate the suggestion, but we're going to probably just keep on calling it hot takes, because it does pretty well for us over here at WrestleJuice, this small little YouTube channel of mine. Anyways, that's going to do it for hot takes. Hey, be sure you guys tune in over at youtube.com/Steven Larson. Tomorrow, we usually go live at 11 a.m. Pacific, 12/1, 2 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to check out the full podcast length review if you want my full thoughts there, along with Larson over there. So be sure to check that out. And then we also got some new merch over at friendoshop.com. Right now, you can use promo code FRIENDO2024 to get a discount on some new Friendo Club merch. I'm going to have some new Wrestle Juice merch coming up shortly. I don't know why I'm doing this with my finger. I'm just finger wagging at you guys right now. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys around.